Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Janelle Knutson, and it has been a while since I have put up a new video on my YouTube channel, and it has been even longer since I have done a homeschool Q&A video. So that is what we are going to do in this video. I'm going to answer some homeschool questions that you guys have asked me either in the comments here on YouTube or on my Facebook page, on Instagram, and many of you have actually replied to my email newsletter with questions, and I usually try to answer those personally, reply back to you when you email me, but some of them I thought would be great questions to answer here on this video as well. So I've got the list in front of me of the questions that I'm hoping to get through all of them. We'll see how time allows, and if any of my children wander in and I have to go be a mom for a little bit. So here we go. Let's jump right in. The first question is, why did you decide to homeschool? Yikes, this is a big question. I think I actually will do a whole separate video on why my husband and I decided to homeschool our kids, and just share with you a little bit about our homeschooling journey and how it's taken some twists and turns along the way. But the short answer for why we decided to homeschool is that we wanted brilliant kids, and we thought that homeschooling would accomplish that. I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of serious in that I had heard about the classical Christian model of education. No private schools around here at the time that offered that, and we couldn't afford private school for our kids at the time anyways. So we decided to homeschool. The irony there is that we no longer follow the classical Christian model anymore, and our main reason for homeschooling isn't academics at all, but that's what God used to kind of get our foot in the door and get us into homeschooling, and then He has directed and changed our path along the way. So hopefully I'll be able to do another video and share a little bit more about our homeschooling journey with you, but that is why we originally decided to homeschool. All right, the next question is, what is your favorite part and least favorite part about homeschooling? All right, you guys, my favorite part about homeschooling is being with my kids. My least favorite part about homeschooling is being with my kids all the time. It's the same. I love that I get to be with my kids all the time. I love all the opportunities that I have to invest in their lives and spend time with them and to talk with them and have amazing conversations that I just don't think that I would have the time to have if they were in a traditional school setting all of the time. So I love that I get to be with my kids, and frankly, I love my kids, so I want to be with them. But if I'm honest, the hardest thing about homeschooling is that I'm with my kids all the time, and that I don't really have much opportunity to have time to myself. And so that is a challenge of homeschooling. So my favorite and my least favorite thing about homeschooling is the exact same thing, being with my kids all of the time. So actually, I would love to know what your favorite thing about homeschooling is and what your least favorite thing about homeschooling is. So leave that in the comments below. That will be really fun to kind of read everybody's, favorite and least favorite thing about homeschooling their kids. All right, the next question is, have you stuck with the same curriculum throughout each school year? So I'm not exactly sure if you mean if I've stuck with the same curriculum year after year after year after year, or if I just, when I pick a curriculum for the school year, I keep that one for the whole school year, but I might change it up. So I will answer both of those. There are a few curriculum that I have stuck with year after year after year that I have not changed. The first one is Matthew C. I started using Matthew C. with my oldest daughter the first year we homeschooled her for first grade, and I used it all the way through calculus with her. I mean, so, alpha all the way through calculus, and then I have used Matthew C. with all of my other kids. And every now and then I try out a new curriculum, and we always end up right back with Matthew C. after just a few days or a few weeks of trying something else out. So that is one curriculum that I have stuck with. Now I know how it works so well, so it's just easy for me to teach and implement with my kids, and so far all my kids are doing really well with it. So if it's working, I there's no reason to switch it up or change it up. So that is something that I have stuck with year after year. Another curriculum that I have continued to use is Spell to Write and Read. I did not use that with my oldest daughter. I didn't know about it at the time, but I did discover it for my second daughter when she started kindergarten. So I used that with her, and I've been using it ever since. So that is something that I have continued to use. In terms of other curriculum, I kind of switch it up every couple years. We have found a lot of curriculum that we like, and some of it works great in one season of life and doesn't work in another season of life, so I have to find something different. So I do change curriculum year to year. In terms of changing curriculum in the middle of the year, for the most part, when I decide on a curriculum and I purchase it and it comes, I stick with it for the whole year for the most part. I might tweak it, I might change it, I might not do some things, I might add some other things that I think would be more fun or fit my kids a little bit better, but I try to stick with the same curriculum that I purchased just because it's expensive, but also because I want my kids to know that just because they whine and complain about something, we're not going to constantly change curriculum every time they complain about it. So for the most part, we stick with it. We do tweak it a little bit. Now, last year, I did change curriculum. Mid-year, I wrote a blog post about that. I will try to remember to link that down below. But I did change our curriculum for almost everybody, and it was a drastic change. Just because what we were using was something that we all loved, but it wasn't working for us, and we weren't getting any schoolwork done because I wasn't able to implement it in my home that year. And so we changed things up in the middle of the school year. But that was really the only year I think that we've changed curriculum after we've already gotten started for this school year. All right. The next question is, what was most difficult the very first year you started homeschooling? Well, the very first year I started homeschooling, about a month or two into our school year with our oldest daughter, I gave birth to our second child. So that was the most difficult thing, was trying to homeschool for the very first time with a newborn baby and being completely exhausted. I didn't really get postpartum depression, but I was really tired and really emotional a lot of the time. And so that just made homeschooling a huge challenge. And also, I thought homeschooling was supposed to look a specific way. I was trying to recreate public school in my home. And so since I didn't really understand what homeschooling could look like for our family and the way, you know, it was going to work best, I was trying to do public school in our home, and it just wasn't working. And I had all of these expectations for myself, and I wasn't meeting any of them because I was trying to care for a newborn and I was so sleep deprived. So that was probably the most difficult thing for our first year, was just that I had a baby. Would I go back and not have a baby that year? No, absolutely not. I love my baby and I'm so thankful for her. Would I have pushed off starting homeschooling? No. What I have learned is that every year of homeschooling has its challenges, and God is faithful to provide what I need, what my kids need each year, and each year looks a little bit differently. Each year has its own challenges, and I've learned to accept that. So our first year was a tough one. I'm very thankful that somebody told me to commit to 2 years of homeschooling. You know, not just try out 1 year and see how it goes, but to commit to 2 years, because that first year was, you know, at the time, in my opinion, a complete disaster. Now that I look back, it was not a complete disaster. It actually was a great homeschool year, but I just had way too many expectations that were completely unrealistic. So that was probably the most difficult thing, was just having a new baby. But you know what? I continued to have more babies every other school year, and we learned to survive. So let's see, the next question is, what is something that you could have done differently from the beginning that would have made things easier? I feel like I'm always doing things differently. Every school year, we just have to change things up a bit. Our family dynamics change, kids have different needs. So I feel like I'm always doing things differently than what I did that first year. But I think, if I think about it a little bit, I would say that the thing that I wish that I had done differently, that would have made things a lot easier, is not to compare myself or my homeschool or my child to other people and other people's homeschools and what other homeschool moms' houses look like and what other homeschool kids were getting done and what they were accomplishing and what they knew. And oh my goodness, the weight of comparing ourselves to others it's terrible. It's terrible. And really, it either made me prideful because I felt like, whoo, well, I'm doing better than them. You know, what is their problem? And I was just full of pride. Or I was weighed down by guilt and, you know, just feeling like a failure because my home wasn't as clean enough. My kids weren't doing as much as, you know, my friends' kids were doing. My homeschool didn't look as efficient and nice and all of that kind of stuff. And so then it just made me feel like a failure. And so I'm just realizing, I know now, don't compare. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare your kids to other kids. Don't compare your home to anyone else's home. The best thing that we can do, I think, that I have learned for myself is just to go to the Lord, to ask Him for wisdom and guidance, and to direct us in our homeschool day and our homeschool year. And I know that if I'm being faithful to what He has called me to do, then I am doing a good job because I'm doing what is honoring and glorifying to God. And, you know, I pray often, Lord, help me. You know, if I'm being lazy, let me know. If I'm being prideful, let me know. If I'm pushing my kids too much or not enough, God, would you just direct me and show me what I need to do? So that is something that probably would have made the first few years of homeschooling a whole lot easier, as if I did not compare myself and my homeschool and my kids to everybody else. All right, next question. Let's see. What are your sanity savers? And then they say things like quiet time. Do you have a certain routine or a certain curriculum? Wow, sanity savers. That is like, I could do a whole video on just my sanity savers and the importance of having some sanity savers, but also the importance of not making those sanity savers an idol and saying, hey, if I don't get this or do that, or this doesn't happen for me, that I have a right to be angry at my kids or frustrated. So, woo, sanity savers. Well, from the very beginning, first year of our homeschool, we have always had quiet time, or tried to have a quiet time, whether that's the little ones are napping and the big kids are just reading books, doing puzzles, coloring, listening to audiobooks, whatever, just having an hour or so of quiet time so that I can just go into my room or sit on the couch and just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know about you, but as a homeschool mom, I just feel like I am here and there, and I'm always on, and my mind is going like full speed, and I have like 10 things on my mind, and my heart's pounding all the time. I'm just, I just need to rest. I need quiet. That is probably my biggest sanity saver, is to just make that part of our routine, that the kids know we are having an hour of quiet time. The interesting thing is that this year, I don't have that. I don't have that quiet time. I have 2 kids that are napping, and they nap at different times. Try as I might to get them to nap at the same time, it is not working. So the little one naps earlier in the morning, like late morning, early afternoon, and that's when we're doing schoolwork. My 3, almost 4-year-old naps in the afternoon, and that's when we would normally have our quiet time, but now that's when my 18-month is up. And so even though the other kids are having a quiet time and they're quiet for about an hour doing their own thing, I am still chasing after an 18-month-old, and he's one of, you know, my kids that does not sit still and is always wanting to explore things, and he is just climbing things and pulling books off the shelf and getting himself into all kinds of trouble. I cannot set him somewhere and let him play, because he wouldn't. He's just up and down and all over the place. So I actually don't have that quiet time. We still have a time where the kids are quiet, But even though my house is quiet, my body and my mind are still like, oh my gosh, where is my 18-month-old? Oh my gosh, what is he getting into? Oh my, So the Lord, for whatever reason, has not provided me that little sanity saver, and I'm just learning that's okay. I cannot make that I have to have this quiet time, or I have a right to be frustrated, or I have a right to be grumpy, or I have a right, or whatever. The Lord's not giving me this time. So I'm going to be on my knees in prayer. Lord, help me get through each and every day with sanity, because I don't have that quiet time right now. But some of the other sanity savers that I do have is having a routine that the kids follow. We don't always stick to the routine. I actually did, I think, a blog post about our simple schedule, and so I will link that down below. But having that really makes a difference, so that everybody just knows the flow of the day, and it just kind of saves my sanity, instead of having to tell people over and over and over again, this is what we're supposed to be doing. No, not that, this, I still have a little bit of that, but not as much. So having a routine, simple schedule is one of my sanity savers. Right now, a huge sanity saver for me is the curriculum we're using. We're using BJU Press Distance Learning. The fact that my kids are getting instruction apart from me, so that I can attend to the 18-month-old, I can spend time with my almost 4-year-old, so that I can do the laundry, so that I can just sit for a minute, not for very long, and not always do I get time to sit, but that I don't have that extra responsibility of having to teach every single subject to all of my kids. That's new to our homeschool this year. We have not used distance learning in the past. I've usually done all of the teaching to all of my kids the last 13 years of homeschooling, and this year we're doing it differently, and it's just been a huge sanity saver to have the BJU Press Distance Learning. So that curriculum has been a huge sanity saver. I think another thing is my time in the Word. Being in the Word. I am not somebody that can get up early before my kids and have a quiet time. Even if I got up, I am just anxious, waiting for somebody to come and interrupt my time with the Lord. So I do that in the evening. A lot of times I fall asleep. But making that a priority of being in the Word and letting God's Word speak to me, comfort me, encourage me is a huge sanity saver. Another sanity saver for me is being with other homeschool moms. We're a part of a couple great homeschool support groups, and man, meeting with those moms once a month at the park or at Mom's Night Out, and just having other moms to share struggles with, to share encouragement with in the homeschooling journey is a huge sanity saver for me. And then another sanity saver is my husband. I have to say, he's awesome. I love him. I'm so thankful for him. He's really good at just reading me and knowing when I have reached my limit, and coming home and taking the kids for a walk, or letting me have some time on a Saturday. So he is a sanity saver for me as well. All right, you guys. Woo! This video is going to be long because I still have several more questions to answer, but hopefully you will stick with me. All right, what does a typical day look like for you? Well, I will answer that question really quickly by saying I already did a video for that. It is my simple schedule video, so I will leave that down below, and you can go check out what a typical day looks like for us. The next question is, was your extended family on board when you originally decided to homeschool? Yes, for the most part, yes. My in-laws were very excited when we started to homeschool, and actually soon after, my husband and I started homeschooling our oldest daughter. My husband's brother and his wife, they pulled their kids out of public school and started homeschooling. So it was great to immediately, just within a year or so, to have a family member who was also homeschooling along with me and in this journey with me. So that was great. My in-laws were very supportive, very encouraging. They are great. They have come over and done art lessons and science lessons. They have taken little ones out and about so that I could have some focus time with older ones. So they have been great. My parents have also been very supportive. My parents are just one of those, I'm just blessed to have wonderful in-laws and wonderful parents. My parents are parents that they support me in pretty much anything, even if they don't agree with it. Unless they think I'm doing something sinful, they are so supportive of everything that I do. And over the years, they have really gotten on board with homeschooling. And so I'm so thankful for that. My dad was a high school math teacher. And so he has come along and helped when my older daughter was in high school. He would come and just kind of tutor her and help her and answer questions if she had any about math. So I have been blessed to have extended family who has been on board and been very encouraging in our homeschooling journey. I know that a lot of people don't have that, and so I'm very, very, very thankful for that as well. And now my sister is homeschooling her kids as well. So it is great to just have family cheering me on and homeschooling right along with me. The next question, do you keep records of your children's schoolwork each year? Yes, I do. In California, where I homeschool currently, we do not have to keep records of their homeschool work. I don't have to keep samples or anything like that. I do, just because I feel like, well, one, I just want my kids to be able to look back and remember some of the things that they did. And also, I want to be able to look back and go, okay, good. Yes, we did do school that year. Okay, yes, they are learning. Sometimes I just need that confidence boost. So I have a whole video on how I keep records and how I store them and all of that. I will link that down below. Do your kids use student planners? And if they do, can you show us what they are? Yeah, my kids use a student planner. It's called my Student Logbook. I think that's what it's called, my Student Logbook. And I did several videos on my student logbooks and talked about what they are and how I use them in our homeschool with my kids. So I will leave all of those videos linked down below. But that is one of my sanity savers as well, is my student logbook, because it helps my kids work independently and they know what they need to do each day. So I will leave links for all of that down below. All right, a few more questions. Have you ever been so overwhelmed that you considered some other form of schooling, like private or public? Oh yeah, all the time. And I say that partly joking and partly serious. Of course, I think all of us homeschool moms, we get overwhelmed. And there's just this little thing in the back of our head like, oh my gosh, it would be so much easier if I could send them to public school or private school, or just have them go somewhere. I mean, I have those all the time, several times a week. I get overwhelmed and think, oh, it would be so much easier. But at the end of the day, when I put my head down on the pillow and I wake up the next morning, I know that I would not really send my kids to public or private school. We are committed to homeschooling. We've seen the benefits of homeschooling. God's really given us a vision for our family and for homeschooling. And so we have only seriously considered one time putting our kids in private school. We personally would not consider putting our kids in public school. That's a whole different video. I don't even know if I'm going to even address that, but we are not, I'll just say we would not put our kids in public school as Christians. Our personal opinion. We did consider private Christian school. It was a couple years ago. I did a blog post about it in the midst of being overwhelmed. It was, I don't want to homeschool anymore. And I will link that blog post down below. And it was during that time when I was writing that blog post that I seriously was telling my husband, I really cannot homeschool. Like, I'm not joking. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and go, oh yeah, I can homeschool. It was months and months of me saying, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. And so we really did. We prayed about it and thought about it. And then my husband was always more, I think you can do this, sweetie. I think you can do this. How can I help you? He was very encouraging. What can we do differently? So it was more me of just, I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I had a whole bunch of littles. I was trying to homeschool big kids and I felt like nothing was getting done. And I just felt like a failure. like, seriously, I felt like a failure. Like, no, we're not getting any schoolwork. No academics are getting accomplished. I felt like I wanted to have time to invest in my kids' hearts. I wasn't even doing that. It was just utter chaos in our home all the time. And we ended up, obviously, continuing to homeschool. And maybe I'll do a separate video about that. But really what changed for me was God reminded me of why we're homeschooling and gave me a bigger picture of why we're homeschooling. And I saw that I was just so caught up in the day-to-day chaos that I needed to step back. I needed to step back and see the bigger picture and say, look, this is the goal. This is where we want to get with our kids. Is putting them in private school gonna reach that goal, or is continuing to homeschool them through this chaos gonna get to that goal? And we just felt like it's homeschooling. It is by far homeschooling. The goals we have for our kids are not purely academics, and we just do not see how we can reach the goals that we want for our family if we didn't have all of the time as a family that homeschooling provides. So absolutely, I have felt overwhelmed and wanted to consider other forms of schooling, but God has always brought us back to homeschooling and the benefits and the blessings of homeschooling our kids at home. And then the last question I think that I will get to today, because this video is getting long, and that is, are you planning on homeschooling all of your kids through high school? Yes, absolutely. We're planning on homeschooling all of our kids through high school. Now that I've gotten one kid through high school, I've graduated one and they are in college. Looking back, it's like, okay, that was not as scary as I thought it was going to be. I can definitely do this, and I cannot even tell you the blessings that came from homeschooling my high schooler. Yeah, there are so many things between the relationship that I was able to develop with my teen that I didn't have with my mom, because I was so wrapped up in my peers and school and social things. And yeah, my daughter, when she was in high school, she did things with friends and she played sports and she did co-op classes, and she was not home all of the time. But homeschooling her meant that there was still more time at home, more time for me to invest in my relationship with her, more time for her to invest in her relationship with her younger siblings. We were able to cater, her gifts and talents to the curriculum that we were using, so that she could enjoy these last few years of homeschooling, and we could really better prepare her for her life as an adult and what we felt like God was calling her to do as an adult. So obviously we still don't know exactly what her career is going to be and what her future holds, but she does have God-given, all of our kids have God-given talents and gifts, and to be able to cater the curriculum to that in those high school years, I think is a huge benefit of homeschooling in the high school years. So I could go on and on and on. I just think the benefits of homeschooling in high school are huge, especially, and I will say this, this will be the last thing I say about homeschooling in high school, but our kids high school is the time, that is the time in their life when they are becoming their own person. And they need to decide, is this my faith? Is this Christian faith really my faith? Or is it just my parents? I want my kids to own their faith. I want them to question things. I want them to question, is the Bible really true? Do I really believe what this says? Is what my parents have been teaching me all these years the truth? Is it what I believe? I want them to question that, because I want them to own their faith. I don't want them to become adults, go into the world and go, oh, I was just parodying what my parents told me. This is not what I really believe. So the high school years are a time when our kids are really coming into their own, and they are wrestling with questions about, what do I believe, and do I really believe in God, and am I really saved, and do I have this personal relationship with Him? What do I believe about big topics? big topics in our culture today. And what a great opportunity in the high school years to be able to pour into our kids, to wrestle with those questions with them. I think the great thing that I love doing with my daughter, she'd come to me and say, hey, Mom, I don't know about this. And for me to say, you know what? That's a great question. Let's talk about it. Here's what Dad and I believe. You know, what are you thinking? Let's look at that a little bit more. Let's look at the Bible. Do you really believe the Bible is true? Let's address that. And to let, you know, my high schoolers know that my husband and I are a safe place to come with their questions, with their doubts, and to walk through them with that and to wrestle with them through that, I think is huge. And I don't see how you would have the time or the opportunities to do that if your child was not being homeschooled. I'm not saying everybody has to homeschool in high school. I'm just telling you, these are the benefits that I have seen. So absolutely, we plan on homeschooling all of our kids through high school. All right, that Q&A, I think this is the longest Q&A I have ever done. I don't even know how long it is, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching and joining me in this Q&A. Please comment any of the questions that were asked of me that I answered. I would love to hear your answers as well, so leave those in the comments. If you have more questions about homeschooling, or even just about, you know, any other questions for me about my life and family and all of that kind of stuff, parenting, leave those in the comments below, and hopefully I'll be able to do another homeschool Q&A soon, or just a Q&A about my life in the future. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you'll be notified of new videos in the future, and I will see you guys again in another video.